All right, Bobby, we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let me get my stuff together. I fell asleep while we were waiting here.
Sorry about that.
No, your fault. All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Our first order on the agenda, our first business item on the agenda is general public comment. Do we have anybody that would like to give general public comment? Hearing none, we will move to the approval of the January meeting minutes. I hope everybody has had a chance. We just got January, right?
Just January.
Just January, okay. So I hope everyone's had a chance to review those. Have any corrections or changes to those?
I move for the approval as presented.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Minutes are approved. Staff reports.
Okay. So for social media, we live streamed our January meeting and we uploaded the video. We posted our meeting minutes for November and December were available. We shared the photos of the Palisade High School baseball field improvements that they finished their grant, and that looked really great. We shared the KOGA scholarship was open, and we posted the meeting agenda for our April meeting. We did not have any media at this time. We have 3 grants requesting payment. The first is the Town of DeBeck, their sidewalk improvements contract. It's a progress payment of $65,000. They have about $10,000 left to finish up that project. The second one is the final grant payment of $50,000 for the Palisade High School baseball field improvements. I just need to get a sign and drop that off at the baseball field, and then that'll be closed. And then the last one is a progress payment for the East Orchard Mesa Fire Protection District for their fire rescue unit. They are way more fortunate than our previous friends with their fire unit and got it in right away, so there was no delays. So they're almost finished with that. They'll have about $20,000 left on that. So we have pictures for one, but not for the other 2 because they're not finished yet. So this is the pre-baseball field work, and you can see the kind of the highlights and where it was going to be done. So this is what it looks like now. All that turf.
Nice.
This is the other side.
It's an AstroTurf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks real nice. And then they got the nice big P for Palisade right there. So it looks really nice. So then we move on to our invoices for February. We're Dusty Reimer for service and supplies for $3,780.66. Our Philadelphia board insurance for 2025 was $3,025, which I believe was less. We did our payment to Rose Cap Investment Advisors for $250,000 to the permanent fund. And then Dufford Waldeck invoices for January services of $324. March invoices, it was just for me, and it was $5,047.24. But it's because we got a new laptop for the district that works really well. And I'm so impressed by all the upgrades to Microsoft since that one was 9 years old. All these new things were happening I had no idea about. All the spreadsheets are working great and everything. It's amazing. And it runs without a battery being plugged in, so it's great. And our April invoices are for me for services and supplies for March for $3,783.66, and our I. Bailey services from November through February for $2,823.01. The one thing that we kind of wanted to discuss with you guys was the potential for the grant workshop dates. I checked with Linda on dates that were available for the community room, and we have June 3rd, 4th, June 10th and 11th, or June 24th. And I was thinking it would potentially be a 2-hour workshop to kind of walk through the grant application, but I just wanted to see who wanted to be there to help out, or who doesn't want to be there. There's no need to be voluntold or to force participation. If you're busy, I get it, but I just wanted to open it up to see if that was something you guys might be interested in.
What time of the day would you be doing?
I was thinking either late morning or early afternoon.
Anything but the 24th works for me.
Okay.
Whoops. third, fourth, and 10th work for me. 11 I can't do.
Okay,
And, yeah, third, fourth, or 10th.
okay. I'll pick one of those dates and just pencil it in, and then we'll get working on the workshop.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you. And just for the upcoming, we'll have a grant workshop in June. Our next boarding will be July 9th with our audit approval. Willie's been working on the audit, so that should be pretty soon to be finalized. And it's due to the state by the 31st, and then we open up with our fall grant cycle on August 1st. So I think we've got good timing with everything, getting everybody kind of ready. And then the last thing that we can touch on that I'd like to do is the changes to the grant application that I sent to you guys. I know it's later in the agenda, but that's something we can touch base on too. I forgot if we need to post any changes for public comment to the application or not.
Well, you should post the agenda item
Okay.
and just say that it's a discussion of revisions to, or consideration of revisions to the application.
Okay, and that's what I have, review of updates.
Materials
to
are
the
processed.
application. Okay,
Okay.
all right, because there's only 2 changes on there, but I'd like to have that ready to go before we do our grant workshop too, so that way if anybody that comes, they know of the new changes that they're
Sure.
made aware of. So that's it for my staff report.
Any questions for Dustin?
No, sir.
No.
All right. And
We need an approval.
Yes.
none, we do need
I move for the approval of the staff report as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. We are ready to move on to the RFP for the ADA website compliance.
Okay, so there was a law passed in the state 2 years ago
Yep.
that requires government websites to be ADA compliant. It's due July.
This year?
Yeah, it's due in July. An entity called Streamline works with the special districts, and he reached out and kind of gave us a comprehensive analysis of what our website was doing. And out of a score of 100, we'd scored 79, which I thought was pretty good. And he said, no, anything less than 100 is failing. And I thought, well, I still thought we were doing pretty good. But most of the stuff that we kind of came into conflict was that our website really has a lot of colorblind issues. And so because he's with them, gave us a proposal of what they could do for us, which would require us to actually take our website and give our website to them and build it on that platform. The proposal just to transfer over was about $1,500, and then we would be required to do maintenance of $350 a month to keep our website with them. And so they would control all of our stuff. Wasn't really glamorous and didn't seem like a really good option that fits us because our website functions very well. So I reached out to Long Point Digital and I asked for another quote from our local guys here to see what they could do. And I think it's a better option, and I'll let Robert explain the option that he gave us.
Yeah, so hello everyone, my name's Robert Valentine. I'm a client manager over at Long Point Digital. We've been here for about 12 years, servicing Palisade, Junction, and Fruta. I don't know if you know the faces. You guys might also know Stan, who's the owner, if you don't know mine. But ADA compliancy with websites and digital assets is a very annoying topic in my mind. Due to the vagueness of what is set up right now. So, one of the kind of reasons that we initiated the conversation with Dusty when she called was the company reached out about overlay companies like Accessibility, Userway. There's like 4 or 5 different ADA compliance overlay companies that claim that your website will be 100% accessible using their platform. It's not true. They're technically going under litigation because they're saying that it's fully safe, but it's not. it's in a weird spot in the law right now because there's no clear definition of what exactly needs to be compliant, other than if somebody with disabilities comes to your website, they have to be able to find the information that they need, or be able to contact you for the information that they need. We have reached out to a few different contacts around the United States, one of which is a web developer over at UCLA. They don't have accessibility at all on their website. They don't focus on it. They just have a note at the bottom of their website saying, if you have a disability that makes it hard for you to find the information that you need to on the website, give us a call. We will have somebody walk you through it over the phone or in person. So it's kind of in this weird spot of the law is making it a priority, but it's not set in stone yet. So it's what we have kind of adopted here locally with our company is a mixture of manual ADA compliance with the use of a overlay system. The overlay system is really good for things like color blindness, things like screen readers, seizure issues, all of those things where it's easy to change color codes, it's easy to change font sizes, brightness, just make it to where it's easier to function, while our team focuses on the more complex ADA issues like having specific information in the back end of the website so that when a screen reader goes past it, it can tell you exactly what this paragraph is, or what this picture is, what this video is entailing. So ours is a lot more custom but simplified. One, we don't need to take over your website. You guys have that perfectly fine. It's with the WordPress system, which is what we prefer to use anyway. Ours is just a annual ADA compliance plugin accessory to do those overlay systems, and then whatever ongoing ADA maintenance would be for our hourly rate. The issue that kind of arises, to be fully transparent with, is there is no verified checklist of what needs to be accessible. There's no verified checklist of these things need to be set in this way for anyone coming to the website. In the law itself and in a lot of the litigation, it's often said, find somebody with disabilities, have them go to your website and tell you if it works. That's not really a great way to continuously make sure the website's working properly. So what we do is we use a few different tools to audit the website. We use our knowledge base of website design and search engine optimization to make sure that things are set up properly and running functionally to where we mitigate any issues there are. I do want to note in the law itself, it does state that they don't think this is a perfect science. They don't expect everyone to be 100% compliant. They state that as long as you're showing a good faith effort in making sure that you are compliant as much as you humanly can be, then that's what really matters. That doesn't mean people don't, unfortunately, try to take advantage of that, which is kind of where we're at here, is making sure that we cover the tracks in case somebody does try to. I guess, does anyone have any questions over the fun topic of ADA compliance on digital assets and websites? I will note this also goes into any PDF or any file that is added to the website. So all of the meeting minutes, all of that stuff have to be set up in a proper file type to where it can be easily accessible, which isn't too hard to do, but still, good note.
Any questions, Bob?
No, we have to do this at the county, so
Yeah, I
pretty
figured.
well versed in the law for this specific case and all that it takes. It's a big lift.
Okay.
If I can say one other thing, it's not necessarily for ADA compliance, but it's something that me and Dusty talked about. I've seen a multitude of companies, of government entities that go to proprietary software of another company. And then in 1 to 2 years, when communication or an issue arises or you want to move on, you don't have a website anymore, and now you have to then pay for another website. So it's a double whammy. My big thing is just, no matter if you go with us or not, make sure that you have full access, full control, that it's not proprietary, that it's something that you guys can control and manage. Because that's the easiest way to keep your guys' assets safe in the future.
Dusty, we need to make a decision today,
Yeah,
okay? And you are recommending
Long Point, yeah.
Long Point, okay?
Because it's just their hourly rate, and then the overlay is called Accessibility, and then you just get that through WordPress. So that's just something that we would end up paying for anyway, and they would, set it up, and they would make sure that it all kind of runs on the back end and stuff, like he was saying, the manual part of it, they would run that for us, but everything stays with us, and it's easier, and it's not, I'm not gonna lie, the sales pitch that we got from Streamline didn't make me feel good, so.
Do we have an estimate on the cost?
So it's over here is that Accessibility setup is a $50 one-time fee, and then for annually to purchase that for like, it's like I don't wanna say widget, but.
Yeah, so it's a
like
plugin, it's
Yeah,
it's
a plugin to the
add-on
website.
that you install to the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we do get it 10% off, so it's like, yay, savings.
Yeah, so it'd be annually be $441, and then whatever their rate is, so, yeah, that would be that versus the $1,500 for Streamline to transfer everything to their website plus $350 a month to keep it on their website.
Okay. I was thinking about the budget and any changes we need to make to the budget. As far as the unknown
Right.
costs.
Yeah, the unknown would be the ongoing maintenance stuff, so,
I will say, whenever somebody reaches out with ongoing maintenance and stuff, we're very transparent in the pricing. It all comes down to the hours that we spend on it, and we don't charge until we actually do the stuff. So we wouldn't be going in there and then sending you guys a random bill or anything like that. We would more than likely be assessing the situation monthly, sending a report to Dusty, letting her know what it looks like, and then if we get the green light on certain changes, moving forward, there's also probably quite a few changes that Dusty herself would be able to make to
Okay.
help mitigate that cost as well.
Okay. Guess we'll have to wait and see what we end up with, if there's any extra work when they make the transition to make any changes to the budget.
We can always revisit that this fall and
Yeah.
do a budget amendment.
Yeah.
mhm,
We can wait and do that then.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Dusty's recommending Long Point, and they seem to be our more practical, in my view, looks to be the more practical solution. Anybody else have any discussion on that, or want
No,
to
sir.
look at this further?
They do
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
translation.
We'll
I
take-
don't have any.
At this point, I accept a motion to sign a contract with Long Point.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other conversation, any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for the update on that, the information on that. Okay. Let me get caught up here. Next, we have a review of our account with Alpine Bank. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course.
We'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. My name is Victor Roan, retail business banker, and I'm Tom Oliver. I'm the branch manager for this branch just across the street from us. So I appreciate you guys letting us come over and visit. It sounds like once a year you like to just review accounts, see what that looks like. Victor's the guy that created this report that you're looking at. He's kind of our business banker extraordinaire. So yeah, I just appreciate your time and looking forward to the conversation.
So on that left-hand side, you guys will see historically how we've moved the rate on this PDPA money market, so for specifically public deposits. You can see it was fairly steady for the majority of 2024, and as rates have started to transition, that rate has also transitioned. 3/19/2025, you can see we're at 4.15 annual percentage yield. And as far as 2024, that 1099 statement right there is what the mineral district has earned, just with having that money sit there. And then you guys wanted to hear a little bit about, future predictions. We don't really know, but we can expect 1 to 2%, and the rate at which that declines is unknown, and it will most likely be in response to the market itself.
I think everybody kind of understands there's a lot of volatility out there to predict interest rates right now is, it's anybody's guess. My crystal ball's a little fuzzy with that, but, we sat down, had a conversation, and we feel like, from what we've seen, obviously 2024 was very good. 5.5% on public deposit funds is a pretty good return. We're predicting, best guess, depending on what happens with tariffs and kind of what happens going forward, 1% decrease in the next year is probably pretty realistic, and it could be as much as a couple percent, but as we all know, it's just kind of see how things go as it adjusts in the future and what political forces there are. Yeah.
I feel pretty confident in our answer that the rates will not increase. So not good for savings, but at least there's a little certainty in that response there.
Is there a benchmark rate you guys index on?
A lot of times we've tried to look at C-Safe during this heightened interest period, so we take a cue from the C-Safe number. C-Safe today is at 4.35% or somewhere in there. So we're a little bit below that at this point, but we've actually tracked the majority of the year actually ahead of those guys, so.
I think Victor's right on the idea that it's unlikely for them to increase this year, but what questions do you have? Other comments, thoughts on rates, and curious what everybody else kind of thinks on that too.
Dusty, you've got all the tools you need in the banking and everything.
Yeah, he ordered checks. I don't see them until I give them to you, so you guys don't let me touch money. It's for checks and balances, not because I'm irresponsible.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yes,
Well,
that sounded terrible after I heard it.
what else can we be doing for you? Is there anything else we can do better for you?
No, because Vera gets the statements, so everything's, I haven't heard any complaints on her end or anything, so, yeah. Just keep giving us money, that would be great.
There you go.
Yeah,
We can handle
we just
that.
like, the money is good.
Any questions?
Nope, good, thank you.
Thank you, John. Bobby, you have any questions for Alpine Bank?
I don't.
No. Okay. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Same time next year?
Yeah. All right. No action on that item. We will.
Do you guys mind if we?
No. No.
No.
It's pretty exciting though.
Open to the
Pretty
party.
exciting stuff.
Yeah, this is, I know.
Be sad to miss it,
The edge of your seat stuff.
Do you guys mind if I stay? Because I'm trying to get into more government contracts
Sure.
and everything, so I'd love to see these
No,
kind
sure.
of things.
Thanks.
Just
Thank
like
you.
Yeah.
You're entitled to be here.
I just like to be nice.
Everybody can show up, right?
All
Public
right.
meeting.
Yeah, that's about-
Review of financials, are you gonna handle that?
Yeah, I was just, I sent over the February ones as well, but I figured we'll just touch base on the March, and I know they've changed, but at the end of March 31st, our balance was $1.6 million. The permit fund showed 3.2. We have a lot of grants payable outstanding right now. We had our contract services of $3,750, dues and memberships, and then the laptop for operation expenses was $1,200. I got it $400 on sale. I was proud of that. Got it when they were discounting, so saved some money. And then we got the interest earned from Alpine Bank was another $5,662.38. We had some unrealized gain and loss in the permanent fund, dividend income of $11,242.32. So, and we saw the 7 grants outstanding with a couple of payments on them. So that's that $828,000 in grants payable that are still sitting. And budget to actual, still pretty good. Our insurance for board insurance was under by about $475, so that was good. It didn't go up.
That's good.
So, and then auditing expenses, I'm gonna guess they're gonna be lower than 4,000. So we should be under budget with that too. So everything looks pretty good right now.
It's good to see that the railroad crossing is finally off.
After all
Yes.
these years.
Yeah,
That's nice.
it's gone. Yeah, all of the old ones are gone. These are just the 23 grants and 24 grants, so everything is current. And most of these looks like we'll be clearing off pretty soon too, so.
Good, good. Any questions on the financial?
No.
You guys? Okay. Okay. Dot, do I hear a motion to accept the financials as presented?
I move to accept the financials as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion. Please say aye. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Dusty, for doing that. Yeah, we'll turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, and I'm here, I printed up, some just report stuff for you guys. I figured it'd be nice
Thank
to
you.
start putting this stuff in me, but one of the top one is just our quarterly report, and that's what you got on the screen, but that's through March 31st. So that I just gave you is updated as the market closed yesterday. And then, the one below it is just our intercompany, like our internal financial report where we look at market indices and stuff like that. But the portfolio as a whole, I guess, would it be awkward if I said like I couldn't be happier? I mean, the market's off a lot, obviously, and things like that are going to happen. But we're down, I guess, about 12% year to date now, and about 15% off the highs. But our portfolio is 63% equities, and it's only down about 2.8% through yesterday. So the market was down today, and I didn't get like it's fluctuating. It wasn't down that much early, and then when I came back to my office after my lunch meeting, it was down a lot. And then as I looked, it looked like it closed about down 2%. So I'm guessing, this portfolio lost maybe just shy of 1% today. But again, it's a really well structured portfolio to handle market volatility like we've seen. So I guess we're not happy that it's off its highs, but I think given that we've absorbed less than 10% of the market movements down when it's got 60+% market exposure is pretty good. So happy with that. A lot of that has to do with the international allocations, which are up this year, and then volume diversification stuff we've done, control innovation. So yeah.
What is the duration in the bond portion?
We're about 3.
3?
Mm-hmm. I could get you an exact number.
That's okay.
Yeah, but we still have shorter term, and then we redid a rebalance. I think it was about a week ago. I'll give you an exact date on that. But we were on the lower side of our target allocation. So the IPS allows up to 65% equity. We were about 57% equity. We were just letting it stay there, anticipating some market downturn. And it wasn't like we were expecting to time when markets go down. It's just,
when you looked at valuations last year, they were really expensive. And I think that's a lot of what's going on. I know there's a lot of blame on tariffs right now, but I think stocks were pretty expensive going into the year, tariffs or no tariffs. And economies, markets are cyclical. And I think, we're headed for a little bit of a slower market economy than we've had in the last 2 years. There's a video I sent out to clients, and I hope you guys get those, but if not, we'll post on our website. But the tariff could be lifted as easily as it could be placed. So staying invested is important. Sticking to our goal is important. If there were any adjustments I would make, it would be the same one I've kind of said since inception is a permanent fund. We probably should have more equity allocation, but I know we're sticking to that 65%, and that is what it is. So we've moved it back up closer to the threshold of that now. Given that, I think things are a little more reasonably valued. So, yeah, but that's the theme of the last month is volatility. The VIX peaked at like 60%, but it's back down to 30%. So we'll see.
Well, hopefully it settles down here in the next couple of months.
Yeah. What's that?
We're in it for the long term,
That's right.
so.
Yeah,
doesn't-
it's a permanent
Yeah,
fund, and
yeah.
ideally,
We're just
I
here to ride it out.
the presentation I gave right before I came here was to the young, the Chamber of Commerce, young entrepreneurs, or young business professionals, or something like that. And they were like, "Oh, about the market." I was like, "You guys, this is good news for you because you get to save, you get to take out your paycheck every month and put in at a much cheaper price than you were a few months ago." And that's kind of the same, for a permanent investor, like in what we're doing, to the extent that there's additional cash flows that come in. We'll do the responsible stuff, which is keep diversified, rebalance through the dips, and onward we go.
Thank you, Matt. Greg, do you have any?
I don't.
Bobby, do you have any questions?
I don't.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Let's see what happens next time.
Yeah.
All right, our next item of business is to review the bylaws for the permanent fund. Chris sent those out.
Yeah, I can kind of walk you guys through it. I mean, if you recall last time, the board really expressed, I think the policy view that came through was that you wanted to reaffirm that the permanent fund is a hands-off kind of thing, that it's to be preserved almost at all costs, and that the only circumstances where you would want to raid the principal of the permanent fund is where there is a clear emergency and a need to do so. And that was sort of what I took away from that. The draft of the change to the section of the bylaws dealing with permanent fund decisions, the red line that's been circulated to you shows what the existing language is. One of the changes that the board specifically asked for is that is the policy of the district that the permanent fund corpus shall not be expended except in the case of emergency and compelling public need. We had a conjunction in there previously. It was or, and I think your direction was no. You want more than just an emergency. You want both of those conditions to be satisfied. And so I made that change, which is really just, it's kind of a semantic change, but it is important in the sense that you have to have both a compelling need and an emergency situation before you would make a decision to expend any part of the principal of the permanent fund. The other thing that the board asked for is we had existing language saying that before you would make a change, that there would be make an expenditure rather, that there would be a resolution prepared that would be published and an opportunity for a public hearing. Our existing bylaws provide for that to happen over a period of 30 days. In other words, you have to publish, give notice, hold your public hearing, and then you would act on it 30 days later. We've extended that to 60 days based on your direction last time. The last thing that I added was that, first off, you have our existing bylaws say that the board has discretion to approve a resolution authorizing such an expenditure, deny such a resolution, or approve it in part, and that you'll receive, public comment, both in form, oral or written comments and testimony. One of the other things I added was that the decision would be made or supported by clear and convincing evidence. In other words, that you'd have to be really convinced that whoever is asking for this extraordinary expenditure has really made their case that it is an emergency, it's a compelling public need. And I was trying to think about where that kind of situation would rise, but you could see a situation where there's a budget catastrophe and a bridge gets knocked out. Let's say the bridge to the Redlands gets knocked out. Nobody has insurance, whatever. You can imagine some sort of compelling situation where infrastructure needs attention, and somebody might come to you and say, this is a big ticket item, but the county needs it. The change there essentially says that you're going to make that decision when there's clear and convincing evidence that you're truly convinced that this is a good idea and not just a short-term kind of Band-Aid. At least that's my change. Now, you have discretion here. If you like that, fine, we can adopt it. If you want to tinker with it some more or give me direction about other comments or changes, I did add some prefatory language in the resolution, again, because to set forth kind of the policy of why this is being done, and because these are kind of historical documents in some sense. Future board might be looking at this and say, why did they do this the way they did this? So you want to have some statement of what your intentions were. But if you're comfortable with this, we can adopt this as written. I've got a clean copy available. If I need to make other changes, just let me know.
Couple questions, Chris.
Yeah.
And I think you did a nice job with, following through on what we wanted. Seems to me like that Corpus is a moving target.
Every year you're adding to,
So
you just
it
put
isn't
250,000 in.
Yeah, but, so I guess my question is, the interest, dividend, and gains in the portfolio, how did they impact the corpus?
Well, okay, so my intention as I defined that term corpus, and I appreciate that, is I've said that the corpus means the cash value of contributions made by the district at the time they are invested in the permanent fund. So this last month, you put $250,000 in.
So it's never impacted by the earnings?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And so, so it's your deposit that you're putting in, that's your principal. And then the appreciation, your ideal situation is you're gonna be making grants in the future off the appreciated earnings, the interest and dividends that fund throws off, without expending what you originally deposited. And my thinking is we've got a pretty good record we have a very good record of exactly how much this board has appropriated every time it makes a annual or semi-annual contribution to the permanent fund. We know exactly how much we put into this. Well, of course, Matt's financial records show that very clearly. So it's really just, if you were going to invade principal, you would need to go through this process.
So, you know, it's really looking at the, deal here, this, if I'm still alive in June, 14 years I'll have been on this board, that is insane. But the advantage of that is, I'm the only one around that was here when the permanent fund was established.
Except for me.
And me.
But I was.
Yeah, but your memory's.
Yeah, we weren't on the board.
So it seems to me like, the intent was that, we would just keep putting money into this, and that at some point, a future board might elect to take part of the annual earnings
Right.
on that money and distribute that as grants, okay? But that is not what's contemplated here. What you're saying is it's principal only. So you're actually going back to all the earnings from all the years that we've had a principal fund, or excuse me, the permanent fund. And those monies would now be, all of it available, which at some point will be bigger than the corpus.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, this document says you're not gonna touch your principal, but you can make distributions of appreciated,
See, what-
returns and dividends.
What I'm wondering is if we wouldn't accomplish more here with this exercise by stipulating that, by the way, at the end of every calendar year, whatever that fund was at the end of that calendar year, that's the new corpus.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can define it any way you want.
Because it represents all the money that's been put in there, plus all the earnings that have been,
Today.
earned on that money. Like I said, because at some point, the value of that corpus, if we look at just contributions, will be overshadowed by the earnings.
The earnings.
If Matt starts doing his job.
So
If
basically
only
saying,
you did.
basically saying at any one time, we can only spend 1 year's worth.
Yeah, what I'm saying is the intent was, we could take a portion of, at some point in the future, a future board could take a portion of those annual earnings and add
And do
that.
grants.
The grants.
And add that money and do grants. So I'm just curious if we couldn't maybe fix that right now.
Well, one thought I had on that is that you just pick a number and you just say that we declare, we define the corpus is what? It's about $3 million right now.
2.3.
Oh, 2.3.
Not the way he's literally.
I think what you're saying is excellent,
Yeah.
except make one, just kind of make a suggestion. One distinction between gains and dividends and interest. So, because you might want to end up where the market was down for a year, but then you don't want that to always mean there's absolutely no grants, because the portfolio will still be earning dividends and interest during that time. Because you can still give grants, it would just be to the extent there's dividends and interest during that year, and then it resets the corpus. I think that's a really good suggestion. Like
We
you're
could
saying.
go,
Yeah.
or it could go, if you set the corpus today, it could, highly unlikely, but it could lose money.
It could. And, you could set it on a year-to-year basis and just say, okay, the baseline of the corpus is today's value. And then next year, we reevaluate that based on whatever contribution you make. And do it on a year-to-year basis. And I'm flexible about this. I mean, I want to respect the intention that was established when we did this.
So you have envisioned, and I similar visions, that we start with a new corpus. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's sort of
okay.
where we're at. We can only spend earnings, 1 year's worth of earnings.
Yeah.
Like, right now, we can only spend the earnings of 2024.
Without diluting the corpus, the revised corpus.
Yes.
That-
Is
to
that
me-
what are your thoughts on that, Bobby? Have you been following this, what we've been talking about?
Yes, I've been tracking it. I'm good with that.
Okay.
In my
So,
mind,
yeah, at the end of, let's say hypothetically, at the end of your fiscal year, in the fall, you know, we get a report from Matt that says, okay, our earnings to date are $300,000. That's what you can appropriate from the permanent fund representing accrued interest and dividend. And you would not, and so that's just a year's worth of earnings, and you're not expending any of your baseline principal.
and I think that accomplishes what the intent was, a really long view.
Right.
Take a really long view of this, and 20 years from now, when there are theoretically no minerals to extract, are the people of Mesa County going to be better served by the fact that we gave grants the whole time, and now all the money's gone and we're dead, or we're done, or set up a really permanent fund that can benefit the people of Mesa County for a long time, past that.
Can I ask a question, just because I'm not really good with this? So is that, what you're saying, is that for like the future, like when grants would be granted out, this isn't the one-time pullout? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Okay.
Right.
It'd be the future.
I mean, so far, the boards have always said, we're not touching it.
Yeah.
But there could come a point where you,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right. Right now, we're saying we're not gonna touch it, but
Right.
10 years down the road, if we said we would like to use the the prior year's earnings for our grants, we could do that,
Okay.
is
okay,
what we're saying.
I was just thinking maybe you guys are way smarter than me.
well, I think I'll have to tinker with this a little bit, because that's a little bit different from what we have on the books now.
It effectively resets the corporate
Yeah.
annually.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And, and we could just say that, and I guess the question then is, do you still want the compelling need language for expenditures of the appreciated value?
Yes,
Yeah.
and didn't we talk about unanimity?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, we did.
We could do that, yeah, I
I
think we did.
right.
Yeah.
Because that sets up how important it is right there.
Yeah, we
Right,
did.
we can't have it.
Yeah, we did do that.
All right?
We did say that.
Do we have anything set up about at what point we actually can start drawing off for future grants? I know we had talked originally when we were pitching it, we said, I think, $20 or $25 million, and the idea was to pull $1 million every year, but
There's
Do-
nothing in
do
writing
we
to
need to
that.
have
no.
anything maybe
No.
set up for the future?
We wanted to get as big as it could get.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have an existing resolution that, that established the permanent fund and established your intentions behind that. But, yeah, I think I can make this bylaw change to say that it's still a hands-off policy,
Mhm.
and that you're only going to, make grants from the appreciated value on an annualized basis. And, still, there needs to be a compelling reason to do that.
Okay.
Because these resources are finite, and once we get that royalty and that molecule hydrocarbon is out of the ground, we never see it again. I'll bring this back to you.
Okay.
I think that's a really important discussion to have.
Yeah, feel better going back.
Thank you.
Glad to.
Thank you, Craig, for bringing that up.
And it would be great if someday we have a $25 million
Sure
fund.
would be.
It's gonna happen.
Yep. And we would have,
Well, there's still a lot of public land,
There is,
Yeah.
and so we've got a good shot at it, I think.
yeah, and if prices increase, I mean, of course, right now, there's not much incentive for production, prices are so low, and it may be that way for a couple of years.
you know, from the natural gas, which is generally in our area, is looking real positive right now for the next 3 or 4 years. So we should see some increase in our income. Bobby, I'm gonna put you on the spot. When the economist was talking about federal mineral leases, and he said federal mineral leases for 2025 should slightly, and right after he said slightly, somebody whispered in my ear, and I didn't say whether he said slightly increase or decrease. Did you hear that part?
I don't know if I did.
Okay. I'll get the slides from him and find that out. I was sitting there listening intently, and somebody came over and whispered in my ear one of the things I wanted to hear. So I'll find that out. But he did give us a number. So we should see natural gas in this area. We should see some more. We should see an increase in it if we get if some leases are put up for sale. We should see more leases picked up, federal leases picked up. We have different, obviously the new administration is changing that, so we should see some good things happen for us in the next few years. There are more rigs planned to be in the field here this next year.
That's some good news.
That is good news. Did you have any other changes to anything else you thought should be changed on the resolution? Bobby, or anything we missed there with that discussion?
I didn't catch anything.
Okay. And you agree with the fact that we want to protect all but the prior year's earnings?
Yeah, and I like that unanimous clause will be in there.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I think that's better. Okay. All right. We will move on to review of the changes to the grant application.
Yeah. Last item. We're almost done.
So the only thing I'm sorry, I'll let you go ahead.
So after we had the discussion about people being supportive about oil and gas industry, and I did have a discussion with Quint. So you're asking for people to kind of do a public declaration that they're in support of oil and gas. If they put that in the grant application, nobody sees it. The grant applications don't really necessarily go through the boards. When they come to me, I don't upload those to the website. I only share them when people request them, when they do the presentations, and then usually when I send out any media releases for grants that have won, I include that in there. There's a lot of paperwork in there. They very rarely ever get read. However, the caveat that I've noticed is that if you were to make them put in their board resolution that they support oil and gas along with that grant request, that is public information. All of those board resolutions end up becoming public documents. So if you Google, you see that the board has a full resolution of what they're doing and supporting. And so that would be a public document that people can see and is searchable and Googleable, that they have in fact had support for the oil and gas industry. So the change that I made was that in the application, they must be willing to submit a board resolution for your grant that includes the language, and open to it is just a suggestion that this governing body strongly supports the oil and gas industry in the state of Colorado. Has to be part of the resolution that they submit with their grant application. And that the other thing is we talked about the depreciating assets, about how if they're requesting for like a cop car or a fire truck, they need to include the depreciation schedule with it, so that you guys know at what rate it's depreciating, how it's depreciated out. So I've included that in there that says if you're requesting funding for a depreciating asset, please include the depreciation schedule. So those are the two changes that I've suggested to kind of incorporate that we're asking them to be supportive of the oil and gas industry because they're asking for oil and gas funds. That makes it a public statement, so that way no one can really walk it back, but they really have to stand out there with the application based on the feedback that you guys have given. Thoughts?
I think that's good. We have heard some long depreciation schedules on some equipment. I don't think it's going to last that long.
Yeah. There may, it just dawned on me, there may be another way of skinning that cat. what if we developed a pass-fail question? Is the expected life of this project or asset going to exceed 7 years? Yes or no?
Oh.
And if it's no, then there's no point in, that stops the scoring.
I would-
Instead of having the scorers try and
Trying to
estimate
guess, yeah.
Mhm.
what it might be, what the permanence or the usefulness of that particular thing might be. If the applicant has to, right there, here's the fence, can you get over it or can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
that
could
more of like a
be.
clarifying question, like we have too,
Yeah.
because we have that in the thing, our clarifying questions say, do you have all the funding? If not,
Yeah, we're done.
like, we're done, yeah. Like, you have to have all your funding up front. We should be the last ask, so,
There's been several of these applications where we've asked that question, the depreciation question, and the answer is, well, you know, the prior piece of equipment lasted 15 years. Really not a good answer.
No, it's not, it's helpful, but not
right.
at the
Yeah.
same time. When you're scoring these, you're like, this is long-term money and we need to, and of course, the problem we've got is as the value of the available grant money has gone down, the significance of the projects that we can
Yeah.
fund has gone down as well. But,
You're doing more fire trucks.
yeah.
We're doing more fire trucks or beds for fire trucks or whatever, refrigerators or that kind of stuff. Yeah. I would assume that most fire trucks are gonna be depreciated longer than 7 years.
And 7 may not be the right number. I threw that out there as a,
We definitely want over 5 years.
It needs to last longer than my last laptop,
Yeah.
9 years.
Yeah, that'll last Dusty's laptop.
If the HP
Yeah,
can
but
do it,
she's-
it's okay.
she's been complaining about it for 2 years. So
Yeah, so it
technically.
really,
Well,
you really only have a depreciable life of 3 years.
I'm like buying new
isn't
stuff, I'm like heartbroken. I'm like, it can make it, I promise.
it? I like that better than
Yeah.
give us an estimate as well, how long this is gonna depreciate, or how long this is gonna be. Any thoughts on that, Bobby, coming from the county side of things?
No, I like that. I think that puts it into place where we want to see.
Yeah. What do you guys, do you know what the depreciation on a piece of equipment like that would be on the county side? Bobby, is that,
We're actually restructuring a lot of our fleet currently.
okay?
So we're looking at a lot of lease options actually, because it kind of makes a little bit more sense than taking on all that. So we're kind of restructuring that right now. Matt Lewis is taking over a lot of our fleet, and he's looking at that just to make sure that we're being really wise with our dollars, and I think we can be a little bit more innovative.
In my mind, Greg, you chime in, and it's changed over the years as our fund becomes smaller. We want to stay away from cars
Yeah.
and light trucks.
Yeah.
Not necessarily fire trucks or larger pieces of equipment, but we want to stay away from buying the county administration a new SUV to drive around, or, things like that. Not that that would happen in the county, but, we want to stay away from that.
So
I
we just
don't-
need to come up with like a number.
Not knowing how long they would depreciate a fire truck or an ambulance. I don't know.
What do we
We
think,
need
just
I would say 7 years.
what do we think the life of that turf at Stoker's gonna be? Did they say?
Here,
I don't remember.
let's look
I was-
into it. We'll pull up the
10
application.
years.
I was sitting at a track meet last night thinking about that, and saying, if there's something that we could put our money into that serves everyone in Mesa County more than this field, I'd like to know what it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
got a lot of feet on it.
you
Yeah.
Oh
got
my
seventh,
gosh.
seventh and eighth graders out there, running, races and doing that stuff.
Football.
So many.
Graduations
Yeah.
and football.
Special Olympics, you have tons of stuff.
Seems like they, on the CMU field, they said it was 7 to 10 years.
Is it?
That just sticks in my head, but I don't know if that's true. I remember when they put that turf down.
Oh, so we did it in 2017.
Mhm.
Wow.
We're still
my
hearing
gosh.
about it.
It's almost 10 years. That's
You're
crazy.
still hearing about it? People that are mad about it?
There
was
were people
controversial.
that were mad
Oh,
about
there
that.
For the
People
turf
Instead
on
of
the,
grass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about the dangers of turf and the emissions it was going to give off.
And we were bailing out CMU,
That it was, yeah, it felt like you were giving too much. to
Right.
shoveling money to CMU.
It was a joint, it was a joint
and
between
CMU had
city,
no obligation
CMU.
to that at the time.
So,
So that's,
oh, it's spring.
I like your 7-year figure that you put out. If that's a practical time frame for a large, I would hope that a fire truck would depreciate it, be depreciated in 7 years. If not, maybe we should be funding it.
Or you may, you may have to be, we kind of talked about this in the past, that the board might have to just do fewer grants and focus on a few larger, this year we're gonna do one grant and it's gonna be significant, and we're not gonna do many grants.
I think about that all the time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because I know you guys have expressed sort of the fatigue with these, projects, these knockoff projects that don't really have an impact, that they might be useful, but is it, fixing that alley, is that really gonna move the needle for a community?
And I go back to a conversation I had a long time ago with a board member from another FML district, in another county. And he was perplexed at why we felt the need to grant money twice a year. He said, we've gone through years without granting anything,
Yeah, they're just accumulating.
because nothing came to us that rang the bell.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's fair to the people in Mesa County or not, but there's a longer view to take.
Yeah.
Right, and you certainly can do that, you have that discretion, you're not bound to,
But when they're in front of you,
well, you can just cancel the grant, you say, we're not doing a spring grant, or,
Yeah.
you've done that already, we're not doing a spring
I
grant.
do like the fact that we have got it down to 1 grant per year. We have increased our amount and our quality of applications a little bit by doing that one time.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, but it's remarkable when you think back of what you guys were granting back when you started, Craig. I mean, you'd have $2-3 million to throw around.
They were big projects.
And you could really make a difference in the community with that kind of money.
I think if there was a year where we got down where we're only getting $150,000, we would just not do a grant that year.
Right.
Yeah,
Would
that's
put
not-
off 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
It would be my view on that.
So the Stoker Stadium, it said, before we replaced it, it was installed in 2007 with an 8-year life expectancy with normal use. It was far exceeded normal use, and they made it to 10 years. They said that they think this will last 10 years and exceed it.
Yeah.
And we're at 8 now.
We're at 8.
They'll be
Yeah.
knocking on your door pretty soon.
But I mean, everybody put in a lot of money. City of Grand Junction, school district, CMU put in money, and then we had a big chunk that we paid for too, but everybody had skin in the game.
It was
So-
$300,000 to put the turf in.
I think what did we?
That was our part.
Yeah, ours,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
did $200,000, but it was just over $500,000, I believe,
Total
for the whole
cost.
thing. The total cost was $516,934.
Wow.
So, and the city had.
That was $2,007, right?
2007.
Or, I mean, when did we do,
Oh, 2017.
2017, excuse
Yeah,
me.
2017, and that's the Parks Improvement pitched in 200,000 too, but, yeah.
Based on that, I would lean toward the question in there that said, a question that said, is amortization, depreciation on this item expected to exceed 7 years? And if the question is no.
Or just expected life. Because
Expected life.
depreciation
Not,
is,
not a, yeah,
Yeah,
depreciation
because the
is
turf expected life was like 8 years previously, and then it was bumped up to 10 years.
Yeah.
But I mean, it gets used a
If
lot.
something doesn't have an expected life of over 7 years, we don't want it.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
You guys, you think that would be a good way to change this, to add that question, Bobby?
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
On a public note on that, I mean, in marketing, that's what we do when we are targeting high quality leads, is you vet them beforehand by doing that kind of stuff. So if that's what you guys are trying to do and focus on is more high quality leads, if I was a marketing consultant, I would be telling you that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Shut down the, that's what we want to do, to improve the quality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Go ahead, Dusty.
So I need to add that as a qualifying question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to get the language right.
Well, and there's two different ways of going there. You could be just pass, fail, stop. There's no point in you filling the rest of this out, or it's a 0 or a 10 when we score it.
Yeah, so that would be up to you guys. Do you want it as a
I
scoring
would say it's
question?
I would say it's a pass-fail. Because if it's a 0
So
or a 10.
yeah, it's one of those screening issues
Then-
where
then
you're gonna tell the applicant, look, we only fund projects that have a useful life of 7 years or more. So if you're not in that category,
Yeah.
don't bother.
Let's not move on, because then we end up looking at one that's,
I could see this easily being people
We have to
saying
see it.
it'll last 7 years.
See,
I could
that's
say,
what,
I
that's,
could see everybody
yeah,
making
no.
the argument that everything will last 7 years.
there I think.
and
we
at
kinda
that,
have to
but
use
Yeah.
at that point then, if it's,
They're gonna play the game with that one no matter what.
Well, maybe so.
But
And
if
then,
they-
and then that comes into your scoring discretion, as they say these folding chairs are gonna last 7 years, but they look pretty flimsy to me, and I'm gonna give this a low score.
and based, the way we do it now, where we actually have presentations,
Yes,
there's a chance to challenge
yeah,
Yes.
or question about that.
Really,
Yeah.
this is gonna last
Yeah.
7 years? This is the
But I'm
problem.
wondering if we still shouldn't have the discretion to go 0
we could do
on
both.
it.
I mean, because we have that in the funding thing, where it says, right here is a qualifying question, it says, excluding the funds sought in this grant application, do you have all funds needed for the completion of the project? Please provide all details to the sources of the funding for the completion of this project. If the answer is no, we will unfortunately be unable to accept your grant application for this grant cycle. And then we go down to the scoring part of it, when we ask them their questions, and we ask them about their funding again. It's more like funding management,
It's
I
like,
guess.
were you lying then, or are you lying now?
Kinda. Well, I'll say it again.
Yeah, no. I don't know, I'd lean towards just saying, you don't proceed if the life is less than 7, don't proceed. If they do come up with a questionable item, then it's our responsibility
On the other, with the rest of the scoring,
to, yeah.
to deal with it,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I think
Wait, say that again? Was
so.
reading.
Just have that question, does the item, a pass-fail
Yeah.
question,
And if you're not convinced, you're gonna score accordingly.
you're gonna score accordingly. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so that's gonna be I'm gonna take this out of the funding availability question for depreciating schedule. You take that out. And then I go up here and I add it to qualifying questions. And I say, is the life of this project going to exceed 7 years? Is that right? Does that sound good?
Expected life, yeah.
Yeah, expected
What
life
is the expected life?
of the project, will it exceed 7 years?
If no, we are unable to continue with your application at this time. Good?
Good.
Do we want any other questions in the bottom? Nothing?
I think we're refining it pretty well.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The only other change I had in here, we put in that they were signing that they would strongly support oil and gas. I was just gonna recommend taking strongly out, just, I don't like
Just
seeing
supports.
words like that in any
Okay,
legal, formal documents. Just say they support.
okay.
If they support it, they support it.
You might want to say something like that the board supports the development of oil and gas resources, as opposed to just
Supporting oil
the
and gas.
industry,
Yeah.
because sometimes people have problems with what a particular industry player
Sure, I
does.
support it. I support it. Yeah, what does that mean? Yeah, I agree that they support the development of.
Yeah,
Support.
because that's really what it is development on public lands, is
Yeah,
um,
support,
Yeah, that federal land component, I think, is
This,
important.
yes,
Because people are supporting it, they just don't want to support it in their
oh,
watershed
well, that's a
or
good point.
yeah.
their public lands or
Right.
Yes,
Oh, you're right.
I
the United States
I
of
support
America, you know?
the development of oil and gas resources in
this,
Mesa County.
the
But also, it's not just
blank
oil and
governing body
gas.
supports the
It's
development of
mineral.
oil and gas
Mineral
resources.
Yeah,
development.
that's right,
We need to say mineral development
mineral development, Mesa County.
Mineral,
on
It's
federal,
primarily oil and
Mineral
gas.
development?
Yeah.
on federal
Okay,
land.
That's what I really want to see is, at the congressional level, it'd be nice if they started broadening that pot of resources that, the industry, solar development,
and
wind, geothermal, if they could start paying royalties of that nature into the same fund for us,
Mesa County, Colorado.
that would be beneficial.
Okay, so the language, it says you must be willing to submit a board resolution for your grant that includes the language, the blank governing body supports mineral development in Mesa County, Colorado. Because there's Mesa County, Arizona too, so we want to make sure.
Federal.
Oh, federal mineral,
Yeah.
okay,
Development, yeah.
federal mineral
Because
development in
that's
Mesa
what
County,
we are,
Colorado.
we can't really hold them responsible for private mineral development or anything like that.
Well, technically, I hate to, but we support mineral development on federal land, period. Because one of the components of the grant, or our share of the money that comes to us is the population that lives here that may work not in Mesa
Yeah.
County, but
That's
okay.
right.
Yeah,
Garfield
we don't want,
County.
yeah,
Just-
sorry,
So-
Just
you're
say
right,
state.
we don't want.
Federal lands in Colorado.
Okay, in Colorado, I'll just leave that in Colorado. It says, supports federal mineral development in Colorado.
Correct.
Okay,
There you go.
good work, Smithing. Good job, everybody. Team effort. Okay, so that'll be part of their requirements to submit that. It has to be.
Are we
If-
okay approving it with those changes?
Okay.
Okay. Bobby, you sound good? You okay approving it today with those changes?
yes.
You're not seeing it, okay? Then so,
You need a motion?
you bet.
I move to approve the the changes to the grant application as amended today.
My second,
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. I feel good about getting that done today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next item. Let me get back to my
It's unscheduled business.
unscheduled business.
We made it.
We made it. Any unscheduled business? Any other discussion?
No, sir?
Okay. All right. With that, do I hear a motion to?
So move.
We have a motion for the meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Bobby.
All
guys.
right.
See
Thanks,
ya.
Bobby.
Bye, Bobby.
Barbecue,
All right.
Bobby.
Yeah, bye.
Meeting
Bye.
adjourned at 3:22.